men have gathered around telling stories and passing down knowledge from one generation to the next. Humans have had a long oral tradition lasting long before writing appeared. Gradually, men began to depict their surroundings on rocks and cave walls. Initially, the drawings were direct representations of the animals and things present in the landscape, but over time, some of the drawings took a more abstract character and began to represent other concepts, and thus we begin to witness the beginning of writing as a means of communication. Over time, early forms of writing began to emerge, first etched in rocks and clay tablets. And slowly we see the evolution of different mediums like papyrus and parchment, which allow the text to be carried around. And we see the transition from the direct representation of animals and concrete objects to the use of symbols to represent more abstract concepts. A picture of a bird may refer to the animal itself, or it may begin to refer to the characteristics of that animal, such as flight or freedom. Symbols became more simplified, and eventually these symbols evolved to represent no longer the idea, but rather the individual sound forming each word. It was the birth of the alphabet, which gave us the ability to represent an unlimited number of words with a small number of letters. Throughout the Middle Ages, texts were the domain of a select group of scribes, and it could take up to a year or more to produce one book written by hand in parchment. These were highly elaborate and labor-intensive. Until around the 1400s, Gutenberg invented the printing press, which enabled reproducing books in unprecedented volume and speed. Gutenberg's printing press revolutionized the dissemination of knowledge. Over time, we witnessed the proliferation of printing presses, and the gradual progress of this technology speeds up the automation of production. Books could now be produced quickly and easily, and over the next few centuries in Europe, we see an explosion of printed material and the creation of libraries and centers of learning. We have come to a revolution of how knowledge is shared and who has access to it. Whereas before only a handful of people could read and write and have access to books, by the 19th century it became almost a necessity for just about everyone to learn how to read and write. We witnessed the educational system evolving into the well-known model of the classroom with students sitting in rows facing the teacher standing in the front of the room. Education is now available and it becomes a requirement for children everywhere. But there is a dark side to this educational model. The need to provide an education to a large number of students requires a systematic and uniform curriculum and methods. Students are expected to listen and conform. We need consistency. We need uniformity. The system works if you can fit in and you're willing to march in lockstep. If you fit the profile of the group the educational system was designed for, then it may work very well. But this model of education is not so good at serving some minority populations who may not conform to the same assumptions and norms that apply to the majority group. And they may struggle to learn and to thrive in this academic world based on the textbook. For some, school is dissociated from their reality and they may feel disconnected. Some students may not have a sense of belonging, and the result for some is disengagement and alienated students. But it doesn't have to be that way. Over the last few decades, we have begun to witness a new revolution in the way that we produce and disseminate news and knowledge. New advances in technology are once again shifting and offering new ways for people to communicate. People are now able to express in a wider variety of mediums, from written text to email to phone texting, and even the ability to produce audio and video recordings with the press of a button. Communication and knowledge making are drastically shifting. Print text is no longer the only way or necessarily the preferred medium of expression. New technology allows for not just consumption, but production of multimedia. Anyone with a smartphone is now able to produce photographs, video, and audio files, and the popularity of social media has turned everyone into consumers and producers of content. Multimodal production allows us to return to our oral traditions of our ancestors. For some students who struggle with the standard academic writing, the ability to communicate using audio and video and other modes of communication may help give them additional tools to express themselves in ways that help them find their voice. I invite you now to join me on a journey of investigation, looking and exploring the ways in which multimodality may be able to help us expand the notion of scholarship and expand the notion of doctoral dissertation writing. I begin this work by reviewing the literature on the use of multimodality in education in general, and then I look more specifically at multimodality in scholarship, and then specifically in doctoral dissertation writing. I look at some of the challenges for scholars to produce multimodal works, and then I conduct a case study looking at how some doctoral students have been able to overcome the challenges in producing a multimodal dissertation. And now I invite you to join me on this journey.